The parshyos, behalosicha. The Rebbe, Marash, when his son became 12 years of age, he called in 3 chassidim.
I had it, thank you.
Alamicha too.
3 chassidim. It was a big celebration for him. In Lubavitch, the custom was that the bar mitzvah boy, before his bar mitzvah, he would learn the whole Mishnayos by heart. Do you know what that means, the whole Mishnayos by heart?
Bar mitzvah.
Yeah. Do you know what the whole Mishnayos by heart is? I have no idea if you have any asog of what it means to learn the whole Shisha Siddur Mishnah by heart.
So like, not every bar mitzvah. Do you to Siddur?
No. The Rebbe, the sons of the Rebbe.
Oh, the son of the Rebbe. Okay.
Yeah, they all did. They did Mishnayos.
Maybe it's from the Chadorim.
Yeah, exactly.
They knew it. Okay.
When we were kids in yeshiva, we used to have Mishnayos Valpeh contest.
Yeah, in camp.
Right, in camp and yeshiva. Yeah, Mishnayos.
Sechta was a big deal.
I've known some heavy
Sechta was a big deal.
from the
Tuma
Cheder.
Sechtas was a big deal.
But the whole Siddur Mishnah is not bad.
Yeah, Shisha said the Mishnah is a lot.
By heart or just to learn them?
By heart.
Ah,
Word
ah.
for word.
Not bad.
Like Ashrei, Yoshrei, Veisecha, Oid Ya'alelucha
The
Zeh.
Rebbe's were tested.
People,
If you know all Sidrei Mishnah by heart, Od Yalelucha.
When I was a kid, I did 2 Sidorim by heart. It was plenty hard.
You did what too?
2 Sidorim by heart.
bar mitzvah.
It took me about, I think it was 6 hours to say each Seder. And then I felt so good about myself. And then I read in the thing from the Rebbe Rayatz, he said when before his bar mitzvah, he did the Shisha Seder Mishnah. And it took him about an hour and a half to say each Seder. Do you know what it means to say an hour and a half each Seder? It means like saying, you ever hear those people, they got the davening? That's how you have to say an hour and a half each Seder. You know what that means? The Rebbe Rashab, when he was a kid, he finished the Shisha Seder Mishnah when he was 12, before he was 12 years old.
He knew.
Huh?
Knew it by heart. David.
For Yudalev? What? Not by heart.
Not by heart.
But this was by heart. He knew it word for word. 12 years old. You know what that is?
Well, did he know the Bart Nura?
For sure. He knew word for word like you know Ashrei. His father called him 3 chassidim.
I don't know Ashrei, so
Okay.
pretty good.
So he called him 3 chassidim and he was very excited. He said a maimer about the Siyam Mishnayos, and then he told them stories of every single Rebbe. One of the stories he said was about the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, his son, was born in the month of Tammuz, the youngest son of Moshe. And in Tammuz, in Russia, the morning was very early. By 7 o'clock, he was after Shacharis. The Alter Rebbe was very, very on time. He was very punctual. 7 o'clock, they were ready for the bris. The Alter Rebbe is in his room. He's not coming out. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. Chatzos comes, Chasam goes. Finally, the Alter Rebbe comes out. As soon as the Alter Rebbe came out, shows up a Yid with a pelt. A pelt is like a thick, thick coat. A fur coat. A thick fur coat. And the Alter Rebbe says, Rabbi Tzalo, come, Rabbi Tzalo, come. And this fellow comes, the Alter Rebbe gives him the baby to bring it to Kisei Shel Aliyo, and after the bris, he asked the fellow to put the finger, you put the wine, and you put in the baby's mouth, you say, V'damai Chai, V'damai Chai. And after obviously after the bris, people were sure that this was Elionov, one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, the story. So people went over, the Chassidim asked him, who are you? And he said, I'm a shepherd. And he disappeared. So now they were sure it was Elionov. I mean, this guy is one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, the story. They asked the Alter Rebbe who he is. And they said that he said he was a shepherd. Alter Rebbe says, it's true, he's a shepherd. And he happens to know Shas, these were the words of the Alter Rebbe. Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Sefra, the Sefrei, and the Zohar, and the Rambam by heart. However, that is not what makes him special. What makes him special is that his neshama is shining in him because he says Mishnayos. And Mishnayos, the word Mishnayos is the word neshama. And this is why his neshama shines. That's why his neshama shines. And the Rebbe explained that what was the connection of so Alter Rebbe must have had a lot of acquaintances with interesting fellows. What was the specialty of the shepherd that he invited him to his son's bris? Because what's unique about a bris? A bris, before the bris, the baby also has a neshama. But the Alter Rebbe says in Siman Daled and Shulchan Aruch, we learned it recently, that in the time of the bris, the neshama starts to shine in the body. That's why the Alter Rebbe says, we were learning about Negelwasser, that Negelwasser really starts at the bottom Bas Mitzvah, because that's when the neshama really starts to shine, in the bottom Bas Mitzvah. However, the neshama starts to shine in the baby by the bris. And that's what the Alter Rebbe says, Negelwasser is only an obligation from Bar and Bas Mitzvah. Under Bar and Bas Mitzvah, you're not obligated. Like if a Jew touches food before they wash Negelwasser, there's a whole machloikus if you're allowed to eat that food or not. There's a machloikus, some say you're allowed to, some not. So there's a pshara, some say at least you have to wash the food. You have to be very careful. And you go sometime, for example, Israel, and go in the shuk, and there are people that are not yet shemrei Torah mitzvahs. You have to be very careful. If a person that doesn't wash their hands, the food becomes tomei.
And if you wash it off?
So there's a whole question. There's a pshara to say you can wash it off. And liquidy things, there's no salvation for it. A child that's under 12 and 13, if they touch without washing, it doesn't matter. However, the Alter Rebbe says that if you wash the hands, kodesh amaloi, it's a good thing. It's kedusha. But when should you start? From the time of the bris. Why the bris? Because that's when the neshama starts shining into the body. So the Alter Rebbe is basically invited this guy, the shepherd. Why? Because yes, the Alter Rebbe explains that the person has to learn Torah by heart. Why? Because the person, the Torah becomes one. It says v'adarta pnei zoken, that you have to stand up. Zoken is a shekona chochma. The Gemara says zoken is a person who acquires chochma. When a person learns Torah and it becomes in a little bit we learn something, put in our memory. So then us and the Torah becomes one, and therefore the person, you have to stand up for him because the Torah and him is one. So this person had the Torah and him was one. The Bavli, the Yerushalmi, the Sefra, the Sefrei, he had everything in him. However, that's not what made the neshama shine in him. When he learned Mishnayos, which is Oisis Neshama, that made the neshama should start shining in him. And that's the inyan of a bris, because the bris is when the neshama starts shining. That's why the Alter Rebbe invited his buddy, the shepherd, to come for the bris, because this guy knew how to make the neshama shine. So he wanted that he should be there to put the wine into his son's mouth and to bring him to Kisa Shel Yochanan to help his son that neshama should shine. So basically, that's the whole nakud of this week's parsha. What's the parsha?
So why, when somebody passed away, they read Mishnayot, and the bris, they don't read Mishnayot. This is neshama, so it's good to read Mishnayot for him. Huh? Didn't think about it, huh?
It's connection.
But we say Zoya. We say Zoya.
But that Mishnayot.
Yeah. The night before the baby's born, we say Zoya.
No.
Zoya, we say. Okay. So, but we do say... So what's the behaloschu? The behaloschu is that there is a command to Aaron that he has to light the candles. And Rashi says, so the Alter Rebbe says in the Lekutai Torah that there are 7 types of Jews. Different type of neshamas. There's different type. There's a neshama that's chesed, there's a neshama that's gvura, there's a neshama that's teferet, netzach, choid, yisoid. There's different ways. And the job of neshama is to shine into the world. Like in the Beis HaMikdash, that the windows went out, to shine into the world. The job of Aaron is to make sure that every single neshama shines. The Mishnah says, Hevei mitalmid of Shalaran. Every Yid is obligated to be like a Talmud of Aaron. Oyev Shalom, Reidev Shalom. Every Yid has the job to, if we have a little bit of light in us, we have to share it with another Yid. So let's learn a nice little halacha here that has to do with lighting the menorah. 3 points in the halachas of lighting the menorah, and how the Rebbe takes these 3 points and avodas Hashem. Halacha 7, halacha zayin. Hadlokas haneris ksheira bezorim. To light the menorah, it doesn't have to be necessarily the kohen. Also, someone else could do the job of lighting the menorah. if he cleaned up the candles and he put in the wicks and he put in the oil and he brought it out, the menorah, mutar lazar ladlikim, someone else is allowed to light it. However, the job of the heitiv aned is that the kohen has to do.
Really?
Heitiv, to clean up the oil and to put in the fresh oil and to put in the wick.
Preparation.
That the kohen must do. But he can bring it out to the kohen, can bring it out, and the Yisrael will light the menorah. Okay? So the Rabbi says,
We don't do it that way.
he says, Hiflik, Shamar, Mutter Lazar Ladlikan, Eloshim Idlikin Kshedes. It's too much to say it's kosher, but not that it's mutter to begin with. And the Kesef Mishnah explains the Rambam Shitta that it really is mutter. Look at the last few lines and Taimer Sherabena Kim de Lavavoidihim Misha Sharia Kmishchituk Shekshere Bezorim. Okay. So the Rebbe says we have here 3 points in this halacha. Who must do Hatavas Anedis? Only the Kohen. Hadloka, everyone can do. However, after you do the hadloka, you have to bring it into the heichel. It can't stay outside of the heichel. It has to be brought. The kohen can bring it out and bring the menorah back into the heichel.
Bring the menorah?
Yeah, picks up the menorah. The menorah was not that big.
How big was it?
It was 18 tvachim altogether, so it's to 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
3 feet, maybe less.
Like the one inside.
Oh.
Yeah,
Gold?
yeah. Gold is very light.
The light.
It's very light. It's gold, so it's light.
So,
So he could carry it and bring it out and bring it back in. So the 3 points. Azor could do the lighting. However, the cleaning and the preparing, putting in the oil and the wick must be by a kohen. It has to end up again in the heichel. These 3 halachas teach us the 3 steps in Avodas Hashem. Number 1, every yid could light the menorah. True that we need to have a big tzaddik, we need to have an Aaron, a kohen that lights the candles, but every Jew has an obligation, hevei mitalmido shel Aaron, that we could share with another yid. There's a shliach in California, I'm sure you have heard of him, Rabbi Kunya. So there was a professor, David Weiss, professor in biology in Berkeley, California. So this is near Tavshachafei, 65. That's the height of the Cold War. And he was invited for in Bakhazia, in Georgia. He was invited by the Russian authorities for a conference of scientists. Scientists, the Russians, a lot of them were very left-wing. And the Russians are very happy to have scientists come to Russia. These are their people till today. Stalin died, Lenin was buried, but in Berkeley, Stalin's people are still alive. Stalin is still alive in Berkeley.
very much.
That's the bottom line.
Very much.
So, if they run out of people to serve in the Kremlin, they might tap into the faculty in Berkeley. Exactly. Recruit them, exactly. So he had received an invitation. He was not interested. He kept on rejecting it. One day he gets a knock on the door from Israeli ambassador himself. He said that, why are you rejecting this opportunity for a Jew to enter Russia? We would love you to go to Russia. He said, how do you know that I got the invitation? He said, what's your business how I know? You got the invitation? Why didn't you go? So, yeah. So, the kid said he agreed to go. So, he decided to use the mission also to help Jews. I mean, that was his whole point. So he found out somehow where there was a shul in Georgia, in Bakhazia. He came to the shul and he made sure to open up a couple of buttons so they see his tzitzis, so they don't think it's another KGB agent. And he brought with him a couple of pairs of tefillin, and he brought with him some extra tzitzis and sedurim, and he spoke to the Yidden. It was like a breath of fresh air. Second day after his davening, he comes out and it was cold, it was windy, it was muddy, it was a little bit of rain, and the Soviet soldier approaches him. What are you doing here? She says, I'm a scientist. I'm doing my exercise, morning exercise. So basically the guy said, give me a break. What are you doing here? Show me what's in your package. So he had a little package. He had tefillin. And he says at that moment he remembered the story that his father told him when he was a child, the story that Gemara says of Elisha Bal Knafayim. That the Roman said that a person that will put on tefillin, they're going to kill him. And Elisha didn't care, he put on tefillin. And once there was a Roman soldier, saw him with his tefillin, they started running after him. So they ran, and he followed him. And he caught up to Elisha. Elisha grabbed his tefillin off his head, he put it in his hands. So the soldier said, what's in your hands? So he said, a bird, a yoina, a dove. So he said, oh yeah, a dove? Let me see, open your hands. He opened his hands, and miraculously there was a dove flapping its wings. The Gemara says that was not a lie. The Knesset Yisrael is imshel yoina. The Knesset Yisrael is like a dove. And the Gemara brings eyes for it. So therefore he didn't lie, he said the truth. It was a miracle. Okay. So he thought to himself, maybe I'll be lucky. And I'll have also a miracle like Elisha Bal Knafayim. So he took the bag and he opened it up, and he says the Soviet soldier looked at it, and the most miraculous thing happened. The guy, like as if he started running away. He ran away. He looked and ran away. Pasha ran away. So when he came back to the United States, he was like in shock. Mamish, a story of Elisha Bal Knafayim. Next day he gets a phone call. Rabbi Chadaka, the Lubavitcher Rebbe would like to see you. He wants to debrief him. The Lubavitcher Rebbe wants to hear what's going on in Russia.
In California? Or
in California. He comes to New York, he had Yechidus. He said he came in. It's supposed to be a 20-minute Yechidus. It turned out to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. Wow. His son, he said he came with a little son, so the son fell asleep. So the Rebbe said, here, put him on my lap. And they kept on talking. The Rebbe kept on saying, no, I want to hear more. I want to hear more. Finally, at one point, he said, no, what's the story with the tefillin? So he asked her, how do you know the story about the tefillin? Just continue. So he said at the end of the Yechidus, he said to the Rebbe, how does someone become your chassid? I see Rabbi Kunyan has some people that are big supporters of his. They're not, very religious, but they're very active. Are they your chassidim? Am I your chassid? How do you become a chassid? So the Rebbe said like this: if every night you could look at yourself and say that today I stepped up in avodas Hashem, I will be happy to call you my chassid. Mm-hmm. And then the Rebbe said that he wants him dafka to go around and tell the story and to be ba'oder people to put on tefillin. Now we know that a short time later, 2 years later, the Rebbe started a huge campaign of the tefillin. The tefillin campaign was the first campaign that the Rebbe started, and that was started 2 days before the 6 Day War broke out. The Rebbe said that with this we're going to be victorious against the enemies of the Jewish people, because it says that Rebbe Lezer Godel said,
by the way, in last night's video, which I don't think you were there for.
No, I didn't see it.
So the interviewed said that when he went into Yechidus, there was a barrister from London, so he asked the Rebbe, I've heard complaints, and my next door neighbor asked me, why would the Rebbe institute a tefillin campaign? So he said, so I'm asking you for an answer for my neighbor. So the Rebbe said, there are two reasons. Two reasons for it. Now, he didn't mention the 6 Day War. He said, one is that, oh boy, I don't remember the one.
No, one is the thing in Rosh Hashanah.
What was it?
Thing in Rosh Hashanah about when somebody's playing tefillin.
Well, after the Lomonach tefillin, once he puts on tefillin, he becomes in a different category.
Okay, right. Once somebody puts on the Shel Rosh, they're in a different category of being Jewish. which is sort of like an illumination, just to show Rosh. And he said, and the other thing is that a Jew in Miami will see a picture, etc., of Jews at the Kotel Hamaravi and decide to put on tefillin. So he said, several years later, he's in London and gets a phone call from his client who had moved to Miami. He didn't even know where Miami was. And he said the client was engaged in a business transaction and wanted him to come to Miami for the business transaction. So he agreed to, and he ended up staying in a condominium next to the client or something. The client had two apartments. And the attorney, it turned out the attorney for the other side was Jewish, and he said, he told him, it was an early morning, meeting, breakfast meeting, I saw a picture of Jews at the Kotel, at the Wailing Wall. He said, at the Wailing Wall, and he said, I really wish you were there. And he said, and I hadn't put on tefillin in 50 years. And the barrister said, come after the meeting, you'll come into my room and you'll put on tefillin. And what the Rebbe said, illuminated. What the Rebbe said, a Jew in Miami is going to see the picture and want to put on tefillin. Mamish.
Wow. So the time is short. Let's get to the 3 halachas. Very nice.
I'll show you the
now
video.
I'll make sure to watch the video.
Yeah.
So the 3 points. Number 1, every Yid has to be in the business of Aaron. Every Yid has to light the candle of a other needs neshama. So a person's going to, that's number 1. Number 2, person's going to say, okay, I'm going to cook up my own little stuff. I'm going to mix together a little bit of oil. I'll make this. No. For that, we need a tzaddik to show the direction. Just like the Rebbe said, the Pshat in the Mishnah, Makor Volna Torah. He brought them to Torah. He didn't bring Torah to them. Sometimes people think, we'll water down the Torah. We'll make it simpler. We'll make it easier. We'll come up with certain plans and programs. Well, that we have to rely on the Kohen. That we have to rely on the Kohen in order to make sure that the oil is kosher and it's clean kosher and the wick and that the oil is the way it should be. For that we rely on the Kohen, and we rely on Aaron HaKohen, the tzaddik that's in that generation, Aaron HaKohen, to show us the way. That's number 2. So every Yid has to light the neshama of another Jew. But that's number 1. Number 2, we have to take direction from Aaron HaKohen. And number 3, we have to try to bring every Jew up as high as possible. We have to try to schlep them into the heichel. Not to say, we already lit the neshama, it's good, they're alive, they're good, they're warm, they're doing good. We have to try to bring them in to the heichel. It's not enough to say, they're going good. So, in Chassidus, there is this concept of 2 types of lights. If you look closely at a fire, right, close to the wick is black. It's blue, black. And as you go further out, it's white, yellow, orange. So in Kabbalah, there's 2 things: Nahoda Ukma and Nahoda Chivra. The black light and the white light. And the Chassidus is brought that there's 2 types of Torah. There's the Torah which is Nigla, the Pshat of Torah, the revealed part of Torah. That's called Nahoda Ukma. It's a black light. It's light, it's Torah, but we don't always see the godliness in there. 2 people arguing about a talus. He says, this whole talus belongs to me. The other says, this talus is me. Or there's a Shor Shenogich Aporim Imtzu B'Betzida, that there was an accident, and he says, this guy's liable. He says, he's liable, the other one's liable. So who sees the godliness here? But when you learn it in the Pnimius of Torah, then it's Nahoira Chivra. You see the godliness in it. So a person is going to say, look, there were generations that Jews were fine Jews, and they didn't know the difference of this light and that light. They didn't learn Pnimius HaTorah. But to us, it's available to learn Pnimius HaTorah. We have the possibility to krich in, to get into the Heichel, to the inside, into the Kodesh itself. So if you could get in, you got to get in. If you can get, if you have the possibility to get in, that's what you have to do. How? You learn the Torah, not only the Torah which is Nahoira Chivra, you learn the Nahoira Hukma, you learn the Nahoira Chivra. Learn the part of the Torah that illuminates your eyes and godliness.
It's the deeper there.
So let's summarize. We have here 3 mitzvahs. And this is what was told to Aaron. Aaron was upset. So Aaron was told that you should know that the koyach that you give to every Jew is the behalosicha, to light the candles, because every single Jew is called a candle. Neir Hashem nishmas Adam, and for Otazoi, lamplighters. So every Yid, we have to light the neshama of every single Jew. But we had number 2, we have to take the atova, the preparing the candle, and the putting in the oil and the putting in the wick. That has to be done by Aaron Kohen Gadol. And number 3, we shouldn't say, oh, we lit the menorah, it's good. If we could get the menorah into the Kodesh, that's what we have to do. We have to get it into the Kodesh.
The third step has to be done by the Kohen, no? So how does that explain?
Who teaches the Pnimius HaTorah, the Nahoira Chivra? Versteht sich the Kohen teaches the Nahoira Chivra. The Tolner Rebbe, every year, Gimel Tammuz, he speaks in Bnei Brak, at the Heichel Menachem. He gives a talk about, now we're already in the Shloshim Yom of Gimel Tammuz. Every year, Gimel Tammuz, he gives a talk. So one of the years, he said this remarkable story. He said there was a soldier in the IDF who, before he enlisted, he was like the macho boy on the block, and he was a really talented guy, and knew how talented he was too. A real sabra, and a fresh one too. At Nebuch, he got maimed at a battle, and both his legs needed to be amputated. After that, he was like, a withering flower. He was embarrassed, he was ashamed. He can't go out, he can't play basketball, he can't football. What can he do? He was sitting in a wheelchair. He refused to go. His wife tried to get him out of the house. He wouldn't even go out of the house. He was so ashamed he didn't want to go out to get fresh air. So the Talmud Rebbe says that one day he gets a phone call from this fellow, and he knows this fellow. This fellow in the first, but Gilgul Rishon was religious too. So the fellow tells him, I'm going to New York. Why are you going to New York? What happened? At that time, they were organizing groups of soldiers that were Nebuch wounded, and they would bring them to 770. They'd give them a tour of America, the United States. It was a week and a half. They'd give them a good time. And the highlight of the trip, Chabad will organize it, the highlight of the trip would be to bring them to 770. You might have seen once these pictures, beautiful pictures of the Yechidus that Rebbe had with the wounded IDF soldiers. That just remarkable Yechidus. And this, how many people? There's not that many people in the room. Maybe you see 20, 30 people spread out with the people that are the aides that are helping them, with the wheelchairs, and the Rebbe would pass them, they would walk, give them a sicha. They would talk to them. And there's famous several sichos that Rebbe said, every time the Rebbe had a certain message. The first time the Rebbe said that they're not supposed to, in Israel they're called Nechei Tzahal. Nechei Tzahal, the wounded of Tzahal. Yeah. The Rebbe said that that's a big mistake. They're not the wounded of Tzahal. The Rebbe said they should be called Mitziyonei Tzahal. The special ones, the remarkable soldiers in Tzahal. Okay. So said the Tolner Rebbe that he asked the fellow, when you come back, give me a call and let me know what's going on. Well, what happened? How was your experience? The guy called him back, and he said it was a remarkable experience. He said the Rebbe came down the stairs, the Rebbe was talking to the soldiers, and he said, I was wondering, everyone likes to talk to us, to give us a talk. Does this guy really know what I feel like, the pain that I'm going through, the pride I had? I was such, I was the greatest guy around. There's such a future in front of me, and now I'm nothing. So he says, finally, we made eye contact. And the Rebbe is looking at me, and I was thinking to myself, I have a yichus. I'm a grandson of the Volozhiner, the Netziv of Volozhin. I deserve to have a little bit, I think, a talk with the Rebbe. So he turns to the Lubavitcher that was wheeling him. He says, after the sicha, I want you to wheel me closer. When the Rebbe walks by, I want you to wheel me close to the Rebbe. I want to talk to the Rebbe. So the guy was, at that moment, the Rebbe looked at them. So the guy, okay, don't worry, I'll take you there. Fine. After the sicha, at the end of the sicha, he looks at this guy. Okay, you're taking me? So the guy wheeled him over, and the Rebbe walks down the steps, and he says the Rebbe walks straight over to him, and he says the Rebbe bent over, and he says, I blurted out, I was once a Talmud Chochem. So the Rebbe bends over and whispers to him this was before it happened or after it happened? In other words, the Rebbe didn't want to say before your wound or after your wound. That was before it happened or after it happened. In other words, when did you go away from Torah mitzvahs? So he said, before it happened. And he said, he doesn't know why. He started to cry. He says the Rebbe put his hand over his head, with a full weight. And he felt that the Rebbe is feeling his pain. And then the Rebbe said, I missed the point. Right in the beginning of the conversation, the Rebbe asked him, what's your name? And he said his name. He said he's a Talmud Chochem. The Rebbe asked him, when did it happen? And he started to cry. The Rebbe put his hand on his head. He said, An einikel von den Netziv. Your whole future is ahead of you. And then the Rebbe went like this. And the whole 770 was on flames. You know how it is with the Rebbe. And that was it. And he said that's it. Now he's a new person. And Talmud Rebbe says that this guy now is a religious person. He's very active. This guy is not. He's a very big matzliach in his personal life, and he's back to Shomer Torah mitzvahs. He's Taka Talmud Chochem now. So that's the story of behalosicha sanedis. Behalosicha sanedis is that we have a tzaddik which teaches us the way that every single yid has his neshama. There's different type of mahalchim. It might be from Volozhin, it might be in Lubavitch, it might be Ashkenaz, it might be Sfard, and there's different ways of shining, there's different colors. There's Nahoira Ukma, Nahoira Chivra, but every yid, in their way, they have to shine. If it's Volozhin, he has to shine. If it's Lubavitch, he has to shine. And if this, and it's from here or from there, every yid has to shine in their way. The tzaddik teaches us that we have to ignite the fire in every yid. That's number one. Number two, we have to make sure to take the direction of Aaron Kohen Gadol, and we have to make sure to say, we just about lit the menorah, it's good. We have to bring the menorah into the Kodesh. The Eibishter shall helfen, the Emetz Hashem, behalosicha sanedis, the B'mheira v'yameinu, we should have the behalosicha and the sanedis with Aaron HaKohen and the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi.